It is Miramar Blue, MAIMERBLU, and this is Garnet Lake. And I'm not sure, I think I bought this at a workshop that I did with Joseph Fettingus, and this was the color that he used, and I'm just like, oh, I love this. And so that's the reason I started doing the undercolor in that. I think this diazinon purple would work really well in like this deep, dark skin tone. Oh, here's the photo of Tom Orsak, and that's his portrait right over there. And he has like,
You flipped it.
huh?
That's the mirror.
Do what?
The mirror.
What did it do to it?
It flips it when you watch it over here.
Oh, yeah. Now, is it right side now? It's upside down?
No, it's not upside down.
It's never mind. Just
It's
ignore
kind
it.
of left and right.
Okay. Okay. Oh, yeah, I pointed that way and it's that way. Okay. He's over towards the open doors. Yeah. Okay. So the other thing, a couple more things, just tips as we finish up. I'm obviously not going to finish the portraits, but again, the PBO drawing gum, I had a question about what do I apply it with. So for her eyes, I'm going to still color her, and the lips, I've got several tools that I use, and I don't paint out of the bottle. And the reason I like PBO better than, say, and see, there's my deal with number 33 on it. I was so close to winning. This is a latex-based product, and if you want to know what happens to your clothes, if you get it on there, this was my favorite hot pink blouse, and I spilled it on here, and that's the reason it's tucked in, because it does not come out. It will not wash out. But I use, this is just like an old-fashioned kind of calligraphy pen. You can use that. You can use a draftsman's tool like that, and it has a little adjustment for finer. You can get a nice line with that. Sometimes I will use the end. This is like a Walmart brush. These have a clear shaft on them, which doesn't make any difference whatsoever, but they have a tapered end. And so with the tapered end, you can get a nice straight line, and I don't know if you can see that from here or not, or you can, let me do it on the white. Lay this down so I don't spill. So you can get you a straight line, or you can like just color in. You have, the only thing is if you've got color underneath that, you want to be careful that you're not scratching the surface of your paper. The other one, you can use a brush, and the way that you keep from destroying your brush is if you will use dishwashing liquid or hand soap and saturate it really well, and then get the excess soap just with your fingers, and then you can dip in and use a paintbrush. So if I've got like a large area, whenever I do poured, and I stopped this sentence. The reason I like PBO drawing gum is that even though it has a blue cast to it, whenever it dries, you can see underneath. You can see the colors that are underneath. So you can tell if your values are getting stronger. I mean, you're not covering up everything. And also, it's pretty forgiving on the paper. I did a demo at the Palette Club in Midland a couple of weeks ago, and I took one of the paintings that I, usually when I do demos, I'll have 4 or 5 of the same thing, so all the different stages. And I had one that was probably 2 years old, and I took the rubber cement eraser, and the drawing gum was coming off without tearing the paper. Now, if you put it on Canson paper, it's going to tear the paper. I'm just saying. But on the Arches paper and on Fabriano, you can get it on off. So, like for the little eyes, I'll do hers real quick, and then I'm going to show you the results of this. So I've got a couple of little highlights here, and I'm just going to use this little pen to capture these highlights. And then this, I don't have to just like go around this. And there's 2 little areas right here that I could highlight, but I didn't highlight those in this one because I'm going to show you one another thing to do. But this just reserves the white of your paper. And they had this on sale the other day, I think, at Hobby Lobby, like for $5.99 for this big bottle.
Really? Goodness.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if they've got any of them left or if they're still on sale. And then once this dries, this will just peel. You can just peel this, any excess out of here. But it'll kill your brush if you don't wash your brush out immediately. If you let that dry in there, it's going to kill it. Now, with this small of an area on the eyes, I can use, if I was doing a big area, I would use a rubber cement eraser, but it's just the eyes, just those couple of little dots right there. And so I'm going to use just masking tape. You can use your fingers, but you know, the oil's on our hands and stuff. So now we have those whites in the eyes. And I can just rub my hand across there and I can tell whether I've got anything left on there or not. And then the other thing I wanted to show you is on him and on that one. And I probably shouldn't, because this is not finished, I shouldn't do this because it does disrupt the paper, the surface of the paper. But see how this, this hard edge in this highlight, and that's too hard of an edge. And so I'm going to very gently, this is a scrubber brush, to soften the edge of that highlight, and then make sure that I'm not using a dirty paper towel. So that now, whenever I go back to this, I'm going to have to be really careful over this, and I may not do anything else with this, because since this has been, the surface has been disturbed, then it may grab that watercolor darker or stronger or different than it would grab it someplace else. This, I don't know whether you can see this. I was going to do one other thing. Oh, I know what I was going to do. I don't know if you have a chance when we get finished, you can come up and see. This was the Naples, this color, this Van Gogh color, and it comes in several brands. But it's flat. When it dries, it's a good flesh color, but it's flat and kind of chalky looking. This is almost an identical color, but it's very vibrant. And it's very, I mean, even whether it's got this color at the edge or this color at the edge, even just in the middle of this, you can see it has a lot more life to it than this is just pretty boring. And that's a lot of the reason that a lot of the artists don't use black straight out of the tube, you know, mixing your colors to get a good black. I was going to show you another thing on her eyes to bring some life into those eyes. I'm going to get a smaller brush. You have a smaller brush? I have a smaller brush. Not my smallest, though. So years ago, Joe and I had Nathalie's, and we made literally millions of ceramic buttons. And we painted some of our most popular buttons and earrings were little hearts that were just about the size of a quarter. And they said, had a little apple, ABC, 1, 2, 3, in the size of a quarter. Oh, wow. So we ordered by the gross our favorite one-hair brushes to do that lettering. So this is a teeny, we sold to Cracker Barrel stores too, so for a little while. That was back in my other life. Anyway, so she has this little bit of a light right here in the bottom of her eye. So this little tiny scrubber brush, and these bristles are a little bit firmer than just a regular watercolor brush. So I can lift out, because I didn't put those reflections in there, I can lift out just a little bit to give that eye a little bit more round, a little bit more activity. There's some other stuff that's going on around her. And I'm just going to go easy on that. Makes a difference, doesn't it? All right, before I quit, and then the same thing here, because I was showing them a while ago about scrubbing out. So I was just using this little sample piece of paper. And I saved the scrubbing for the very last step, even though I didn't on his face. And some of the paints, and I didn't bring this, some of the paints are staining, and some of them are transparent, where you can they'll lift almost back to the white of the paper without scrubbing. But this will save you a little bit of work. Just make sure that you're not scrubbing other color back into where you've been. Y'all have any questions before we finish up? I think I've got maybe about 10 minutes or something. Anything else?
I want to ask you something. I've started using Daniel Smith colors, and you said something about them a while ago. What do you think about them? How many of them how many different?
How many different?
Well, I mean, what is the majority of what you use, or do you just use a lot of different? Learn to use the Daniel Smith.
Well, Daniel Smith and American Journey are and Windsor Core are good. I don't do, what's the honey-based ones? Graham?
Holbein too.
It's honey-based? I have a few Holbein colors. In fact, I think that this yellow ochre, I think I said that it was Core, but I believe it's Holbein. The little tube is around here someplace. I had it out. Anyway, so like whenever I go to a workshop, they usually have a list of colors that these are yellows and oranges from workshops, and some that I use. And then whenever I go to these are colors that I won as an award from this society. They're the Quiller colors, and so I go in and pick out, and a little bit of gouache. And these are my pink colors and red colors. And so what I do, and I have little color charts of all of these, and it's not just because I've just loved collecting all these colors. I don't just like make it a point to go buy a color. I don't have that color and I need that color. I don't do that. But if we have a workshop, usually what we'll do is, normally I'll buy the colors, and however many, and we're going to use like this much for that workshop. And so we'll divvy up and we'll share the cost, because it gets so expensive to buy workshop colors. And so now, since I've got a pretty good array of colors, then I've got color charts, which I didn't bring with me, that I can say, okay, well, they want this color purple, but I have this one, and it's pretty close. And so, but I like the Daniel Smith. They're consistent. Core is really consistent, and they're really highly pigmented. And then the American Journey, I think American Journey is Cheap Joe's kind of version of Daniel Smith. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm just having to get used to
All the brands?
Well, I can tell there's a difference in
And-
about everything I've used so far, because of the brilliance and everything. I love it.
And so, like if you're doing burnt siennas, all of the brands are so different. The way that they react on the paper, and the intensity, and I don't know what the color mix is. And of course, they've got little formulas and stuff on the side of them that tell you what all they've and how much that they've put of what pigment in that. But if you find your favorite, it doesn't matter what the brand is. Am I right? If you have a color, that works well for you, and it's your color palette, what do you say? Yes?
I asked her what she was using. Because sometimes if you're using student grade and you go to a professional grade, it makes all the difference.
It does.
Well, when you're learning,
Right.
you're not going to go in and buy a $30 tube of paint.
No. And so, like, some of the core colors, you can get, they have like a 12 and a 24 maybe, and a 32. Just, starts about maybe $20. And it's in in a little metal palette, and they're little tubes. They're the little tiny tubes that are about like that. That's a great place to start to see if you like that brand and if you like those colors, to make that step up to professional colors. The other thing that you kind of need to know is some colors are granulating. And so it doesn't matter how well you mix those up and what you do. Once you put them on the paper, they're going to separate. That's the way they're formulated, is to granulate. And so if you're a landscape artist, that's a great thing that you might want. If you're a portrait artist, maybe not so much so, you know. So, and there's no substitute for practice. There's no substitute for putting color on the paper. Make a mistake. You know, have fun. More pigment, less water. You get familiar with your paints, and that's what we did. Where's this one? That's what I did with this, and this has nothing to do with portraits. But Renee was doing a cow the other day. She had this photograph of this cow that she had painted, and so let me turn it this way so it's not upside down to y'all. And so I splattered the paper. Are you proud of me, JoBeth? I splattered the paper with water. You know, it spritzed it, splattered it, and put a little bit of water on the paper, and then and this was from Ian's workshop, where he just said, put some color on the paper, a warm up. See what the colors are going to do together, what you like with the combinations, things that work, things that don't work, scratch into the paper. And so I just splattered it around. And I did the same thing with this, just playing with your palette and finding out your lights and your darks and what works well together and what's, you know, like, do you like it, do you not like it? And I did this one. This reminded me, I only saw her demo, but this reminded me of Gene Haynes's Bicycle Riders. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I like it pretty good, just like it is, so I don't know that I'm going to do anything with it. Scratched in while the paint was still wet, scratched in some doolollies. Did those, and some of my friends said they could see. Did y'all see deer or cow? Anyway, I saw cow, so there was this one white streak, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll make this cows. And anyway, the reason I said any of that stuff is practice, get familiar, experiment. You know, we were talking about the David Lobenberger, you know, and does these wild color portraits, you know, that are amazing. And the other thing, let me just share this with you. Whenever, and I've shared this before, but we've got some new ones in here. Whenever I took Linda Baker's workshop, the main thing that I took away from that is when you paint something, you know, if you're painting it for you, that's one thing. But what's going to stop them in their tracks? Is this painting going to stop somebody in their tracks and make them take a second look, either because of the emotion or the color or the statement? But, you know, don't waste your viewers' time. And I did one not too long ago, and I had it sitting in the studio for a day or two, and I thought, you know, there's nothing there to make somebody stop and say, what? What? You know, and whether it's a good what or a bad what or what, you know. But and just experiment. And so whether it's going to be a striking background or turquoise, I don't know, you know, but would those eyes stop somebody and make them come in and look a little closer? And the other thing, and I can't remember, and I don't think it was JoBeth, but someplace where we've been together, and it could have been just in one of the demos. When you use a big brush and do big art, it makes people step back to look and to take it all in. And when you use a small, tiny brush and little detail, it makes people draw in close. I mean, if it's going to stop them in their tracks, you got to stop them first to get them to either step back and look at it or to draw you in. But so if you're going to do detail, do exceptional detail. And if you're going to do big, bold, do big, bold. Whatever you do it with passion, and know that everybody starts someplace, And failure is not failure. It's just one more step towards success, okay? Thank y'all for your time and your attention. Does anybody have any more questions? Okay. And you can never have too many pallets.
We appreciate it so much.
Yes,
Thanks.
What you said about passion, when Kobe Bryant and his daughter and the others were killed, something came across the screen, I don't know where I saw it exactly, but a statement he made, because it referred